What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. You know, I thought the story of Timberwolves Clippers was Rudy Gobert. Not just in his help defense responsibilities, but also in when they shifted him onto Russell Westbrook, some of the damage that he did to the Clippers offense overall. This is the 8th time this season that Rudy Gobert had at least 15 points and 4 blocks in a game. Had some really impressive offensive plays in the second half. Had a pick and roll possession where he caught on the roll and Euro stepped around Zubac on his way to the basket. He had a cut underneath the front of the rim on a baseline Anthony Edwards drive where he caught, and Kawhi Leonard stepped up in to help, and he just buried Kawhi underneath the basket and dunked on his head, was cleaning up the offensive glass too. It was a really good two-way effort from Rudy Gobert, but I want to focus in on the defensive end of the floor. He spent a good amount of time on Russell Westbrook and just completely shut down the Clippers offense. And one of the things that you'd see is Kawhi like drive into the lane and see Rudy Gobert, and instead of taking a layup, have to take like some incredibly difficult left shoulder fade. He actually made one that like was a straight up line drive that barely got over the front of the rim, but you'd see hesitation there. There was a play where Paul George drove into Gobert. Gobert was right there waiting for him. He shoveled it off to Kawhi. Rudy just turns around. He's right there waiting for him. And they're pump faking at ghosts. They're refusing to take shots around the rim. He just completely and utterly dominated this game. There was even one of the most impressive plays that you'll see from a shot blocker, a block of a hook shot. Zubac in the middle of the lane kind of went over his left shoulder for a hook shot in the lane, and Rudy just swatted it out of there. It was an incredible two-way performance from Rudy Gobert. Jaden McDaniels did great work on Kawhi. Anthony Edwards did great work on Paul George. I thought Kyle Anderson had a key shift in the early fourth quarter because like one of the pathways of this game was as the matchups kind of shook out, James Harden was playing pretty well in that early third quarter stretch, just like hit a step back three, made some good plays to get the the Wolves in rotation where the Clippers were able to get some easier shots because he had Mike Conley on him. And then when he stepped out of the game and Russ came on, there wasn't really a good entry point anymore for the Clippers, and their offense completely stalled. And then when James Harden came back into the game in the fourth quarter, they put Kyle Anderson on him, and he had a really good shift on him there to help them continue to grow the lead. And then from there, just really solid weak side rotations. I thought Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a couple of plays where he took away threes that would for sure be decent catch and shoot opportunities for guys like Amir Coffey or Norman Powell. He's chasing them off the line. They held the Clippers to 0.95 points per spot up possession. They average 1.13 for the season, so almost a 20% increase. They're the second best spot up team in the league behind the Boston Celtics, and they just completely didn't shut down, but did a significant amount of damage to that significant chunk of what the Clippers like to do on offense. And then on the other end of the floor, Anthony Edwards had one of the best 1 for 11 from 3 games you'll ever see. He was 7 for 7 on twos, all right at the rim. Analytics guys would have loved his shot chart. It was just a bunch of threes and a bunch of layups. And Anthony Edwards, as we know, will take mid-range shots, just didn't take any of them in this game. Had some unbelievable drives to the rim. His physical imposition in the game on the game makes it so that even against excellent perimeter defense teams like the Clippers, he can just get to his spots. He had this like pirouetting spin move off of one leg where he got into the lane, and Terrence Mann, who's a big physical guard, was being physical with him and walling him up and taking the contact in the chest, and he just powered through all of that and got all the way to the rim and scooped it in with his right hand. I've talked a lot about this with the young players that I coach, but like getting in the weight room and specifically leg strength is so incredibly important to get to your spots, because when you're fighting through contact, every one of those bumps is like a battle. And if you are the bigger, stronger player, you're going to be able to, it's just simple physics. You'll be able to absorb that contact better than if you are the smaller player in those altercations. And don't mistake the weight room and the role that plays in Anthony Edwards' ability to get to the rim. He had 8 assists and 1 turnover. Good job driving and kicking to shooters. One thing with him, I've harped a lot on Jason Tatum for this, so I want to be fair. He does have a tendency to settle for really difficult pull-up three-point shots, and he's not particularly good at them. And, you know, in general, I pulled this out for that Tatum discussion, but when you look at all the guys in the league that have attempted over 400 pull-up threes this year, or pull-up jump shots this year, all of them are guys that don't have great physical tools and are great at that shot. So they shoot incredible, 52, 53% effective field goal percentage. So they're getting over a point per shot on it. Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards, they both take almost half their shots in the form of pull-up jump shots, and both of them are really inefficient. As a matter of fact, Ant is worse with it even than Jason Tatum is. And so both of them, you got to remember, they're kind of cutting the defense a break when they settle those kinds of shots because of how dominant they are elsewhere on the floor. Again, 7 for 7 when he went to the rim and 1 for 11 when he pulled from the perimeter. So I'm being nitpicky here, but would like to see a little better balance there from Anthony Edwards. Again, for both of those guys, just cut it from half of your shot diet to like a little bit under a third of your shot diet, like 30% of your shot diet. Now you're doing what all of the great efficient scorers of all time do from the standpoint of not letting the defense off the hook. Really balanced scoring game from Caddy at 24 points. Did a little bit of everything. Was scoring out of spot up, scoring on cut, scoring on offensive rebound, put back, scoring out of the post, scoring in ISO. Had a really impressive hockey assist in the second half where he was driving along the left wing. I think he was driving on Terrence Mann, if I remember correctly. But James Harden turns to double team, and Kawhi Leonard made a perfect textbook windshield wiper rotation. Remember, windshield wiper rotations is like when the double comes, the other guy rotates with him to take away the first pass, because the majority of players, when they get double teamed, panic and try to just make the quick outlet pass rather than making the kill pass, the pass that beats the defense. And Cat just didn't panic, pivoted back over his left shoulder, read that Harden was kind of playing that passing lane and that Kawhi Leonard had jumped up to Mike Conley, whipped it across the court to Anthony Edwards on the right wing, extra pass. I think Paul George rotated up, extra pass to the corner to Jaden McDaniels, and he knocked down the three. Really, really high-level playmaking from Karl Towns. And then as a team, they just completely dominated the Clippers in the paint, outscored them 64-42. The Clippers, as I've talked about a lot this year, they rely on pull-up shooting. They take the second most in the league behind the Dallas Mavericks, and they're 18th in points in the paint scored per game. So they went 1 for 11 on pull-up threes, kind of mimicking Anthony Edwards' number. The Clippers as a team went 1 for 11 on pull-up threes and 10 for 32 overall on pull-up jump shots. They had 21 points on 32 pull-up jump shots. What's your next punch? When that's not working, what's the next thing that you can do? And as you saw in that second half, when James Harden came out and they had that long stretch with Russ, and then when Harden came back in and he had a better perimeter defender on him, they weren't able to generate that driving kick offense that they can go to as an alternative to their pull-up jump shooting attack. And like the Wolves, to their credit, like they're a great three-point shooting team. They only shot 32% from three. They're a bad spot-up team when you chase them off the line, but like that's an important part of their game, is their ability to knock down, catch, and shoot threes. They weren't shooting well, right? Anthony Edwards went 1 for 11, and they're just good at doing other stuff. They're a great transition team. They're a great post-up team. They're one of the best teams in the league at scoring on offensive rebound putbacks. A lot of stuff like what you saw from Rudy Gobert in that game. So they can win ugly. They can win when it goes 1 for 11 from three, and win big, because as we know, the Timberwolves' biggest weakness is their late game scoring, the stuff that they do offensively when it's, a 3-point game with 5 minutes left. That's usually their biggest issue, and they can win ugly and win big and not even have to put their offense in that sort of predicament. Really, really impressive, dominant defensive performance from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, and like I've talked about this with the Timberwolves. I've been a little bit critical from the standpoint of their late game offense. I want to be clear. Aside from the Nuggets, all of these teams have big red flags. So whether it's Boston and their offensive execution, Minnesota and their offensive execution, Milwaukee and their point of attack defense, like the Lakers and their complete and utter lack of a point of attack defender, the Warriors and their lack of like a good veteran second option behind Steph Curry, like all these teams, the Thunder are super young and super small, right? Like all of these teams have big red flags. And so don't mistake me being critical of the Wolves' late game offense as me saying they can't win. That's just, if they lose, that'll be what gets them beat. But there's all these other teams that have similar flaws that could just get beat for their own reasons, if that makes sense. On the Clippers front, I talked about the entry points earlier, James Harden on Mike Conley. That matchup piece is a big part of it. I thought they stayed with Russell Westbrook way too long in the middle to late third and then into the fourth quarter. And he had some disastrous mistakes. There was a play where he smoked a transition layup off the back of the rim, which led to a wide open Anthony Edwards three, which he missed, but Rudy Gobert got an offensive rebound, put back and one as a result of them being only 5-on-4 on the other end of the floor. Because remember, I talked about this yesterday with Spencer Dinwiddie. He's smoking a layup, especially in transition. You're going to have a guard who's typically responsible for being the first line of transition defense. You're going to have a guard behind the back of the backboard, and that's always just going to put your defense in a compromised position. But that's a 5-point swing. Smoked layup, run out for Rudy Gobert and one. And for the record, Russell Westbrook shooting 51% from on layups this year. He's one of the worst layup shooters in the league this year. And so when he takes uncontested layups in a spaced out environment, he typically makes them. But when he goes into traffic, he misses them almost every time at this point. And there was a wide open Kawhi Leonard on the left wing on this transition play that led to the 5-point swing. There was a play where he caught in the right corner, whipped by Rudy Gobert, beat him on a closeout, and then tried to dunk it off of like straight vert, which like 32-year-old Russ would have done just fine, but at this point in his career, he can't do anymore. And it ended up being another run out that led to a foul. It was a 4-point swing. And then lastly, it was somewhat late shot clock. It was like 6 or 7 seconds on the shot clock. But instead of swinging it to a better offensive player, he tried to attack Rudy Gobert on an ISO, who was clearly backpedaling and taking the rim away, smoked a layup over the top, and it ran out the other way. And Minnesota hit a 3. That's a 5-point swing, a 4-point swing, and a 5-point swing off of 3 mistakes from Russell Westbrook. It was a 14-point swing, all in that third quarter. But even beyond just those 3 plays, with Rudy Gobert on him, the ball just kept ending up in his hands. Because again, a lot of these offensive players, they're making instinctual plays. Like they're used to driving and kicking a certain way. When they're programmed, when they see a guy open wearing their jersey, to throw that ball, especially as a guard, especially a player of Russell Westbrook's reputation. But when the ball kept ending up in his hands, that was usually where the offensive possession would fall apart. And I thought Ty Lue just stuck with him way too long in this game. He had 29 minutes. The Wolves were plus 21 when Russ was on the floor, and it was an even game when he was off the floor. And I saw a lot of Clippers fans talking about like, oh, they tried to go small. Not just Clipper fans, but people watching the game. Like the Clippers tried to go small and they still couldn't score. And it's like, yeah, they went small, but they went small with Russ. When you go with small with Russ, it's effectively like having a center on the floor offensively. A center that's going to struggle to finish around the rim. So they're small, but they're limited on offense when they go with that group. And if you, as we've talked about so much on this show, when you go small, you better be damn good at being small, or the big team is just going to demolish you, because the big team has all of these advantages as well. You need to pick them apart on offense if you're going to be small, and that's not what they did. And then lastly, on the Clippers front, can they hold up against interior power teams? After last night, 0-2 versus the Wolves, 1-2 versus Denver, 1-2 versus the Lakers. That's 2-6 against the big front lines of the Western Conference. And this has been a consistent thing I've talked about. Like they're a bad defensive rebounding team. They rely on pull-up jump shooting. They don't score in the paint. Those are significant concerns against traditional playoff powerhouses. I still have the Clippers up at 4th in my contenders list. I'm not taking them off that list. But like I talked about earlier with Minnesota, if the Clippers lose, this is how it will look. It will look like them going cold from the perimeter in a physical kind of playoff-like environment and getting dominated inside of the paint.